Another reminder, in just about 10 or 15 minutes, we do expect President Obama, along with Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, to make some sort of statement about the events in Libya and in Egypt. Right now, we want to head to New York City now and check in with Christian Amanpour. Christian, you've been everywhere. You know a lot about this stuff. So the rhetoric that's now flying around in the United States, is that good for the situation unfolding in Libya and in Egypt?
Well, Carol, I'm not really going to talk about the political domestic reporting here, or rather the political dynamic here. But what really is important is to see what's going on outside. You know, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton just made a very strong speech condemning what happened in Libya and in Egypt, condemning in the strongest possible terms the attack on those embassies and consulates and the killing of U.S. ambassador and other officials. I think important for viewers to understand is what she tried to say also, is that this is not all of the Arab world. This is not all Libyans or all Egyptians. These are very, very small parts, very small extremist members of these countries. And voting, rather polling, shows that by a great margin, people in Libya, for instance, support the United States and are very grateful for what the U.S. contributed to do in the liberation of Libya back a year ago. And we can see even the Libyan officials who've made statements have apologized to the people of Libya. We're waiting to see what happens elsewhere around the world, because horribly awful to say, we've seen this movie before, so to speak. We saw what happened in Afghanistan and that region back in 2011 and 2010, when the Florida pastor Terry Jones threatened to burn a Quran and then did burn one. And these are incidents that have really had huge knock-on effects. So we're waiting to see what happens. President Karzai has strongly condemned the film, and he's trying to tamp down any kind of outbreak against any kind of American facilities in Afghanistan. They've tried to tamp down YouTube there so that people can't see this trailer that's going around. So it's causing a lot of anxiety amongst American allies in that part of the world as well.
Senator John McCain issued a statement along with Joe Lieberman. They said that somebody has to be arrested. Somebody has to be arrested for these attacks in Benghazi. Do you think that the Libyan government is in a position to do that? Will it do that? Should it do that?
I think it's going to have to. You heard a very strong statement from Secretary of State Clinton as well, saying that they wanted to hunt these people down and bring them to justice, and they're working with the Libyan government to make sure that happens. It's true that in some parts of Libya there are, you know, militias and security personnel who have not yet been brought fully under the control of the central government. It's moving in that direction, but it's not fully in control of the central government. And that's a big challenge for a start-up country, if you like, a start-up attempt at democracy in that part of the world. But that is going to have to be seen to be happening. The Libyan authorities are going to have to take measures against these people and hunt them down and bring them to justice. As we've heard, as I said, a very strong statement from Libya apologizing in very strong terms for what happened.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how difficult that process will be.
You know, we can speculate, Carol. We can speculate that it will be difficult. We can speculate on and on about it. But the fact of the matter is that these things will have to be done. And it appears, at least, that the Libyans are saying the right thing. And I think that's very important. It's not like the Libyans are saying, oh, well, you know, sorry this happened, we're not going to take measures to try to hunt these people down. They seem to be saying the right things. And as I say, though, I think one also has a huge challenge going ahead. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton made very clear that the United States has been a bastion of not just democracy, but religious tolerance for its entire history. And that's something that's very, very important to promote in the rest of the world as well. What we're seeing also, though, is, and you've heard the filmmaker himself say, that this was a political movie. They knew what was at stake. They knew what could happen. He was warned that it could happen, and he knew that that was going to happen. He took that on board. So this is also, if you like, an incitement as well. And I think that has to be something that's a big challenge as we go forward, trying to figure out, you know, what our responsibilities are as well.
Right. We live in the country that believes in free speech. As far as I know, that film is still posted on YouTube, and you can see it here in the United States. And I think the Wall Street Journal is reporting that filmmaker now is in hiding and fear for his life.
Exactly. But when he was called after, at least after the Egyptian security crisis around the embassy, apparently, according to published reports, the filmmaker said, you know, I did it. I knew what was going to happen. This is a political film, and he called Islam a cancer. Now, there is free speech. Nobody's denying that. The question is, does one have to weigh one's words in this kind of situation, or in any kind of situation? Is there some kind of responsibility against incitement? Is there some kind of measure when it comes to free speech or hate speech? And look, you know, the United States in 1919 had a very, very important Supreme Court decision which essentially boiled down to you can't cry fire in a crowded theater. And it's very important that, and I know it's very difficult in these days with this huge internet, this mass communications that gets reverberated around the world, how to balance all of that with free speech.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I know there are some calls within Egypt that the U.S. Justice Department get involved and bring some sort of charges against this filmmaker.
Well, I think that's, you know, for the United States to decide how it proceeds. I mean, it's probably a non-starter, that. But as I say, you know, those of us who are on public platforms and who actually do speak, and our words are we every day measure what we say. But we are part of a democracy which believes in free speech. So, you know, these are issues. As I say, we've seen this movie before. This has happened over and over again, whether in Afghanistan, whether in the Netherlands. Those who go out to deliberately incite find that they play into the hands of those very extremists in that other part of the world that we don't want to incite, or rather that we don't want to validate. So those extremists out there use this stuff and whip up for their own political, religious, cultural, whatever reasons they have. So they're using it as well.
Interesting. Christiane Amanpour, thank you so much for sharing your insight. Always valuable. We appreciate it.